What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today I am reviewing 28 Days Later. And I remember watching this movie as a kid because it came out 2002. And I remember watching it like when it was on. I don't remember what channel it was on, but I remember watching it around the time and it just being wowed. And being. I'll be honest with you, I was legit scared of this movie when it first came out. Like these fucking fast zombies and. Because I remember watching this and then watching Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead around the same time. And then obviously going back and watching some of the older zombie movies. And I'm going to say it. The zombie genre is probably one of my least favorite genres. Especially if you compare it to like werewolves movies and vampire movies. I just prefer those. But there are some good ones. And this one is one of them. And I love how visceral it is. That opening scene. When you just see the world, kind of going to shit and seeing how this rage virus is affecting other parts of the world. And then the other opening scene when these animal rights activists try to release these animals and then it goes to shit and you get the iconic shot of the woman getting infected and turning, getting the rage in her eyes. And, that was the DVD. That was actually the cover of the poster in the DVD cover for a while. Is that shot of her and her eyes, which being all affected. And I love how gritty this movie is. The atmosphere this movie builds. Like, they just immediately get into it when you're introduced. Then you go right into 28 Days Later. This is when we meet Jim, who's a bicycle courier, who's just, after, leaving the hospital and is just walking around in deserted London is so fucking eerie. It's like, you're not even seeing any zombies yet or anything like that. Not really, besides outside of the scene at the beginning. I really just love that it's just him walking through and, yeah, you're not seeing anything, but you feel the tension and that just how isolated he is. It's just by himself, And then this is where we get our first shot of the zombies, like as a group. And then this is where he's saved by some survivors. We meet Selena and Mark. Brendan Gleeson is in this, who's a really good actor. I really loved him and stuff. Because I was like trying to think of his name. Like, oh, he's in this. And I couldn't think of his name the other day. But I'm like, okay. Brendan Gleeson. You got Christopher Eccleston as Henry West. I thought he was really good in this. And you might know Christopher Eccleston. He's one of the he's like the first of the newer doctors in the, in the revival. Thought he was actually pretty good in this movie. And I thought the characters are all likable. You got a nice core group of likable leads. And survivors, and you feel the tension, and they have chemistry even though they're just all different people. So they go to Jim's house because he wants to know what happened to his parents, and it's so tragic when you find out that they killed themselves. Because basically, obviously, with what happened, and they rather, instead of getting taken over, they decided to kill themselves, which is very tragic. And man, fucking Cillian Murphy really nails it. And I don't know if this is like one of his earliest roles or if it isn't, but either way, he is so good in this movie. This is like probably my favorite. And I mean, acting wise, he's probably better in Oppenheimer, but I am sorry, this is probably my favorite Cillian Murphy movie. He's really good in Red Eye too. That's another movie that I think he's really good in. But I really love him in this movie. Like, you feel bad. Like, this scene when he finds out about his parents, and it's just tragic when he's reading their letter and his breakdown. So they stay the night at the house, and this is when Jim, when he's reminiscing about his family, obviously kind of fucks up because the zombies see the light, which you could say is dumb. Like, that's the only thing, but it's like, at least in the movie, they call him out on it when he makes a mistake like that, so it's not like they don't address it. I'm okay if characters make stupid decisions like that, if it at least gets addressed in the movie. If they're like, hey, you did something stupid, you know? Not just, like, obliviously do it. And he just woke up. So I can it's not like he had been living, because he's been in a coma throughout all this zombie outbreak. Which, one thing I will say I like is interesting. I do think it's an interesting premise. Imagine being in a coma. You go in a coma, things are, are normal. And then you wake up and now you're in this outbreak. You're in this apocalypse. You're only with a couple of survivors. You walk outside and everything's just empty. You know, it's very ominous. And actually, another thing I really love is the score for this movie. Especially when it was the score that was playing when he's just walking through the city. Is very fucking good. It's builds tension. I love the way it's shot too. Like, it has this gritty visceralness about it because they didn't use whatever camera they decided to use. I'm happy they decided they didn't use some fancy camera or whatever, because this movie came out in 2002 and visually it looks so different compared to other movies. Yeah, Danny Boyle, you know, and this was made in Britain. So that is the only difference. It was made in Britain. So they probably didn't use like the fancy cameras compared to, like, let's say Hollywood. But I'm happy they didn't. You could definitely tell though in the second movie the quality visually. If I remember, that's the one thing I remember from the second one, is I think it looks better. From what I remember liking 28 Years Later. Not years, that's the new one coming out. Fucking eye. The old one, the second one. 28 days, weeks later. I don't really remember that one. I need to watch that one again. I remember liking it, but I remember thinking, like, obviously it's not as good as the first one. But I thought 28 Weeks Later was alright, so I'll be watching that. The plan is to do it on Thursday this week, I guess, before we get more into the review. I guess I can get into what I got going on, because I'm mostly I think I got planned out what I'm going to be doing this week. Tomorrow, we will be doing... God fucking damn it. So, tomorrow, I'll be doing my 2024 worst movies of the year. And right now, it's like at 18 or 19. I'll see if I can pull out a fight at 20th. But if not, it'll be like top 18 or 19 of the year. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. On Monday, we will be doing Scrooged. Tuesday, I'll be doing P2. We'll also be talking about... I'll probably try to watch It's a Wonderful Life, like the actual original. Like Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning. Something, so I can kind of talk about it early, and then in the evening when I review P2, I can talk about it. Then Wednesday, on Christmas, I will list my favorite Christmas movies, including horror. And then Thursday, even though it is the day after Christmas, I will be doing... Actually, hold on. No. I'm going to change things, because I forgot... Well, my friend Orange Hat's doing a um, a stream discussion about Scrooge. So I'll just watch it that day, and we'll probably just review it that day. It'll make more sense instead of watching it twice. So Monday, I'll be doing my favorite Christmas horror movies. If I can make that a list. If not, I'll do like top 5 or something. And then I'll do the Christmas movies on Christmas. And then, yeah, Thursday will be Scrooged. And then next Friday will be Superman, All-Star Superman, the animated movie. So we'll be doing that. So that is my schedule this week. But going back to the movie, man, this movie is so good. The final act, this is where we meet Mayor West, and you think they're good guys, and obviously get the reveal that they're bad guys, and then they try to escape, end up killing soldiers while the zombies start coming in, and then the last 3 survivors drive off. And Jim, Selena, and Hannah are basically waiting for this jet to get them. So this is after the ordeal, which I really love. I just love how simple this film is, and I cannot wait. I'm kind of happy that 28 Years trailer came out, because it did make me want to watch this again. It gave me the urge to watch these movies again. And yeah, man. After Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, this is probably my second favorite zombie movie, or almost 1B if I'm being honest. This and like the Dawn of the Dead remake are like 2 of my favorite like zombie films, because I love the human characters in it, but also how visceral and the fast zombies are fucking scary. Don't get me wrong, I like classic zombie movies. I love the original Dawn of the Dead. I love Night of the Living Dead. A lot of those older zombie films. But something about the fast zombies and how quick the spread is, I don't know. But you still have those old zombie tropes from the old movies, but they still do their own thing. I do like that the way they don't call them zombies, they just say the infected. Even in this wiki, they're not called zombies, they're called the infected. I actually like that they're not just calling them zombies. Like, they try to do their own thing with it. I mean, they're zombies, but they're calling it something else. So yeah, overall, I would probably give this film, especially as a zombie film, I may have to give it a 9.9 out of 10, honestly. I think this is almost a 10 out of 10 film. Like, it's score, atmosphere, great characters, a really good up-and-coming, Cillian Murphy, Brendan Gleeson's good, Selena, some of these fucking Christopher Eccleston as General, or as Major West, who you think is a good guy but is actually a bad guy. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, as a team, really did a good job with this, and I cannot wait to even watch the second one. I hope the second one, I do not remember much of it. I remember liking it, just thinking it was a bit of a step down, but I remember thinking it was alright, so we'll see. I'll be watching it again next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday. Sorry, a raccoon just passed by. Distracted me for a second. But next Thursday we'll be doing 28 weeks later, which came out in 2007. So tomorrow, worst movies of the year, and man, there's been some bad ones. And the fact that I almost can make it, I have almost made it at 20. There's some good ones. I'm gonna preface this by saying this. I'm not one of these people that thinks every single new movie sucks ass. A lot of them do, but there is some good new stuff. It's just, it's not there right now. The fact that I could say I'm almost at 20 bad movies is pretty wild. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. And yeah. Anyways, let's subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. And, let's get into 28 Days Later. You know what I might do? Having now watched these movies, I might, after I finish doing 28 Weeks Later, maybe after we do Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, and then I might go back and do the original. I kind of wanted me to go back and do watch some zombies. Why not? There's a bunch of them we can do. I'm not gonna do all of them, but I definitely want to go back and watch the 2004 remake. And, go back and do the even, because if I'm going to do the remake, I might as well do the original too. I feel like I would feel weird just only doing the remake. Might as well do both. Maybe I'll do one more, then I'll take a little break and definitely revisit some of these, because definitely some of these I probably want to save for Halloween next year. But anyway, the way this movie, this cold open, and I know cold open is usually generally used in a comedy, but I'm using it in a different context here. This just straightforward into it before the animal rights activists infiltrate the lab. You're seeing all around the world the start of the rage virus and what's going on. It's so fucking visceral. It's like it hits you. It's like, holy shit, something is going down. And I like that they don't fully explain. You're getting like visuals. Because to me, that is the point of doing a movie, is sometimes show don't tell. You don't always need to explain every little thing. It's sometimes nice to just have a movie that just does that. And I think there's a lot of that in this movie. There's a lot of showing don't tell. They do tell, but they also show. I think they do. There's a nice balance of showing and telling, Like, that opening scene is so hard-hitting, man. Just the part where they're going to, like, the other parts of the world and you're seeing what's going on and how it started. And then we get to the part with the lab, and they, obviously they're animal rights activists. And, obviously you want to think they're doing the right thing, but then one of the scientists warns them they are very contagious. They, obviously because they have the rage virus in them, and they get out. The monkey attacks the girl, and shit immediately. I love how it was immediate too. It wasn't like, it really made you like, okay, this shit is serious. Because it was immediate. Like, the results were immediate. It wasn't like you had a little bit of time for them to react to no, it was very much immediate. She's already pretty much infected. And that shot of her with her red eyes, which is used for the poster and a lot of the DVD cover, is so iconic. With the red just coloring on the poster, and then even in the movie it still looks really good. It's such a crazy shot, and I can imagine as a kid, because I was a kid watching this. I watched this, it might have been 2005 or 2006. Yeah, it might have been like one of those years. It was a little bit before the second one came out, because I think I didn't see the second one until like way later. I didn't see the second one until like probably like 2010, I think, or something like that. Because one day it was just like I went back and watched the 28 Days Later, and then I saw there was a sequel. So I had only seen the first one at the time, and man, I was fucked up, man. Those red eyes can get me, especially as a kid, because that's like just, it's demonic as these red eyes. And yeah, it starts killing people. The virus starts spreading, and she was patient zero across Britain, and society collapses. And I love the transition 28 days later, which is almost like basically the title card. That was perfect how they did it. And this is where Jim, who fell into a coma because he had an accident, like, way before the outbreak. That aspect is so crazy, because you could put obviously a lot of people put themselves in these kind of scenarios. But imagine like waking up, like something happens, you just get into a car accident or a bike accident, you're out in a coma, and then you wake up almost a month later, and everything's gone. All of a sudden, you're just seeing these red-eyed fucking zombies. Like, what the fuck? Society collapsed and you didn't even know it. I think that would, like, fuck with me if I was actually in that position that Jim was. When you actually truly realize what's happening. It's like, not only did things, before you were put in a coma, things were just fine. Things were just going normal. It was a normal day, everybody's walking around. So you expect to wake up and things be like that. You wake up at the hospitals, everybody's gone there. You walk outside, everybody's gone. It's eerily quiet. All of a sudden, you're being chased by these zombies. And then obviously what happens later with his parents. And then you find that. Imagine finding that out, that your parents committed suicide and they gave you a warning letter. But, obviously you're not going to see it until, unfortunately, it's way too late. And that's what makes this movie so good. Because you feel for each character. And they're believable survivors, too. And it's not like Walking Dead. And I actually think, too, one thing I should have probably mentioned this more. I really love it. This is one of the few zombie movies where it's not it's focused on humanity. Because there's too many zombie movies where you have this cool concept with zombies, but you want to constantly we got to constantly tell you how humans bad. I'm kind of tired of that. Obviously you have a little bit of that element with the soldiers, but that's more towards the end. You don't get that element until like the third act, really. For like the first bit, it's a lot of it's just the survivors against the infected. And I prefer that. I like when the zombies, one of the reasons I really love Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and in the remake, in the original, the zombies are the villain. Night of the Living Dead, a lot of the older zombie movies, I wouldn't mind making this a video. This constant focus of, we gotta always have a human villain, so the zombies become just a plot device to just have human drama. And it's like, okay, just take the zombies out, just do a generic human drama show if you're gonna do that. You have an interesting concept like zombies, but you want to constantly go back to human bad. Like, that's weak, bro. You don't do that in vampire movies. In vampire movies, the vampires are the villains or antagonists. Same thing with werewolves. You don't need a human bad guy all the time. And I'm happy that in this case, for the majority of the movie, until we meet West and his soldiers, it's just the zombies that are the bad guys. And that's the hurdle they deal with. But also, I hate it because the zombies at that point are just a plot device. They're just there. They're not really the actual focus of the movie. And I get it. You can't fully focus on them because they're brainless or they're dead. Infected creatures, obviously, they're not human anymore. So I understand that aspect. You can't really focus on them, at least with vampires, especially depending on, you got the more humanoid ones, which that's the most common one, where they're great, obviously, what they look like. But even when it's more like the creature-esque vampire design, the vampires are still treated as the threat. And I kind of just want to go back to that with zombies, so it's nice seeing that in this movie. So he's traveling down. This is where he gets chased by, because he goes to a church, gets chased by a bunch of zombies. And this is when he runs into a couple of survivors, Mark and Selena, who take him to their refuge. The other thing, too, I actually like how everybody's just friendly to each other. And I get some people would try to argue it's not realistic. Oh, we would turn on each other. But I'm like, in a case like this, I like the idea that sometimes, I do think that's another trope that zombie movies overly do, especially the later one. Fuck it out. Like, where constantly humans have to be terrible to each other. I'm okay with that if you're doing like a Mad Max style or an Escape from New York kind of post-apocalyptic world where there's not a creature, an outlining factor that's affecting humanity in a zombie situation. It's one of the reasons I prefer older zombie movies. Humans actually try to help each other. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Like, yeah, there are gonna be people. I'm not saying that's not gonna happen. There won't be people who will turn on each other. I get the trope of. I don't see it as a trope. I actually think that's just survival. Where you're gonna be a bit skeptical if you just meet a new group of people because you do want to protect your family. But I also do feel like it's the same like with an alien invasion. I like the story when humans come together because this outside force is now a threat to you. So if anything, I feel like the opposite would happen. People would be more like to help each other. Obviously, if something gets infected, I'm okay with that. If you want to deal with the repercussions and the ramifications of that stuff. But I am kind of tired of like humans just, fuck you. I'm gonna just turn you away because every man for himself. It doesn't work in a zombie format. I think it works more in like an Escape from New York, Mad Max style. But anyway, Jim requests to go to his own house because obviously he wants to check on his parents. And man, when he finds out his parents unfortunately killed themselves and then gave him a note to warn him what's going on, it's very tragic. And Cillian's acting here is probably my favorite acting in this whole movie from him. And he delivered throughout this whole movie. And I actually like the other characters. Frank was a really good character. I thought Brendan Gleeson played him good. Selena was a likable protagonist, and obviously, Gas, she's another strong woman character. Obviously she's gonna have a bit more experience than Jim because Jim just woke up from being in 28 days, but she wasn't talking down to the other characters, but they also let her obviously have her, she was just a character too. She wasn't just tough chick. She actually had a character. And I think they did a good job too that you want them all to survive and they all had chemistry. Because that's the one thing I do like about zombie films is the aspect of with the human characters, it can just be a random group of characters. Because it could just be a random bunch of survivors who come together. Because, you're all in this situation, you're all survivors. You could all come from different walks of life. You can have like a military character. You could have a dude who's just a normal guy. You could have, maybe I don't know, like a high school or college kid. All different walks of life having to come together and survive. I love that aspect. That's the one thing about zombie stuff I do like, especially when they nail it, is that. And unfortunately, Jim fucks up, and I get it. He wants to reminisce, and obviously there's no electricity, so unfortunately had to use a candle, and it attracts zombies, and they come in, but they manage to kill him. Mark ends up getting wounded, and unfortunately Selena kills him because he gets infected. And this is one of those things, that's another thing I love about a good zombie thing, is that debate. Because it is sad, you have to kill another human being, but I also understand the idea, unfortunately, if someone gets infected. And sometimes there is an aspect where you all, in a way, you have that mutual understanding that if I get infected, you're almost like, I want you to kill me. It's not like I want you to do it, but it's like, you have almost like, I guess not permission in a way, but like, you all understand if I get infected, you're gonna have to do it. They all have that understanding, and it's very sad. It's a sad, fucked up way of looking at it, but and that's tragic. Unfortunately, Mark died. They go to a tower, and this is where we meet Frank. And Thought he was a pretty good character. Brendan Gleeson really does a good job. The atmosphere even carries on into some of the later scenes. There's not a slow point in this movie where, I like the scenes though where they do stop for a second and they do talk to each other and you get character growth and all that. Because that's the other aspect a good zombie film can do is those are very good ways to do character studies because you have these core group of characters and yeah, zombies, I'm going to say it, they're in that aspect, they're not the most compelling villains. They just have numbers and they can, especially in this, I will say, the rage virus makes them fucking crazy and how fast they are and all that. That changed the game. Especially, let's say it, how many fucking movies did the whole fast zombie thing after? Because I'm gonna say it, this came out even before the Dawn of the Dead remake, because this came out 2 years before. And as much as I love that movie, that I wouldn't be surprised if one of the elements of that movie had fast zombies too, was that they did this did that first. So I think that's a good thing. This movie really definitely started that genre of fast zombie, at least popularized it, if anything. And so they get together with Frank. So Frank fucks up and kicks something, or he kicks a crow, and unfortunately triggers like blood because I think it's like a body hanging, and like blood to drip in his eye, and then like the military shoot him dead. It's like a fucked up world, man. And I do wish we got more of him, but I can understand. This is one of the cases where characters, there are moments where characters do stupid shit, but you can almost accept, and like I said, the movie calls it out within the movie. Like a character will say, that motherfucker fucked up. Like obviously with Jim in the beginning, with the lamp. And then this is where we see the soldiers, Jim, Selena, and Hannah to the mansion. This is where we meet West. They promise them safety initially, even though it's actually a ruse. It turns out they're there to lure women there for, unfortunately, sexual slavery. So I like this movie does address that. So there is that element. And I know what I said earlier, but at least this was towards the end. And the zombies still are an aspect. And, they take Jim to be shot, and obviously the women are being trafficked, basically. Jim escapes, and they see it. Jim sees a jet, and so they release a soldier who's infected, obviously starts attacking people, and Jim kills, because Jim kills Wes very brutally, and it gets to a point where it's almost like borderline, are you affected? Because how aggressive he was. And it is I really do like how they explain, they don't go too in-depth on fully what the rage virus is. You kind of can see what it does, but I also like they don't go too into it. I like that it's a mystery a little bit. I love when movies do that. I at least in the first one, I kind of like when you don't, it's more about, you don't need to know the how or the why. I sometimes like it when something just exists. This thing is just here now, and you just gotta fucking deal with it. We're not gonna go really into the backstory yet, or even at all, and just let this thing exist, and you just gotta deal with it. I actually like that sometimes. Like I always go back to this film, the first Halloween, or the first Alien. Those are like two examples. You don't fully know what the xenomorph is, how the eggs work. It's just there. They get infected, and now they got to deal with the xenomorph. Michael Myers just exists. You don't know the why he killed his sister. None of that. He just exists. I love that aspect. Even in Dawn of the Dead, I love that they do that. I think both versions did that, where they don't explain how the zombies came in. They just are there. And if they do explain, it's more later in the film, but they keep the mystery at least for a little bit. I'll be honest, it's been a little bit since I've seen those movies, but it seems like I don't really remember them at least the newer one. I felt like they didn't go too into an origin story. They just kind of existed, you know. And if anything, most zombie stories are very kind of basic. Infection, some kind of zombie infection spreads, you know. Um, and so the survivors live, um, and they jump 28 days later, another 28 days later. So basically, that's like about 2 months later. They're in a remote cottage, and the zombies are slowly dying because their food supply is thinning. They see a jet come in, and they have all three of them have a banner that says hello, and the jet spots them, and that's how the movie ends. I like how it's just a simple ending, nothing more, nothing less, no complex ending. They don't go into like what happens after, it just ends. So, I really love this movie. I definitely think this is a case of, if you want to watch a zombie movie, I think this is a good one to watch. Especially if you want more fast-paced zombie movies, this is a good one. If you want one that's more focused on the zombies and not just human bad, if there is an aspect of that, it's towards the end. It's like literally the last act. Because for the first bit, a lot of the movie, the zombies are the focus. And I like that, you know. If you want great character work, because I like all these characters, Danny Boyle really nailed it. Alex Garland really nailed the writing in this. The writing is beautiful. How gritty it is, the world is. That opening, man, or the opening with Jim, when you're Jim's introduction, the fact he wakes up from a coma before everything goes to shit, and then seeing the city all empty, this empty hospital, and finding out about your parents that they're not just dead, they committed suicide. And yeah, man, it's a very fucked up um just like position to live in, and all these characters are likable. Christopher Eccleston was a great bad guy. um yeah, man. So overall, this is a 9.5 out of 10. I cannot 9.9 out of 10. I cannot wait to watch 28 weeks later. Like I said, I remember liking it and just not being as good as the first, but I remember really liking it. And I thought it was a nice expansion of the world, so can't wait to see it again. So, but yeah, man, tomorrow's gonna be fun roasting a lot of these bad movies because there was a lot of them. Some of them I haven't reviewed, so man, it was a bad year, bro. In terms of the really bad, there was really bad, but there was some really good stuff. So I will be getting into that next week. Like I said, I'm gonna wait till I see, well, obviously both Sonic 3 and the big one, Nosferatu, because I have a feeling that's gonna be my number one. We will see. But the bad one's pretty much complete. Like I don't, at least right now, foresee seeing any other movie that's shit. The only one that's out there is Mufasa, but I don't plan on watching that. So, but anyways, I'll be doing that tomorrow, and just try to pin down podcasts. But that's all I really got. And yeah.